So,
oh, sweet.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right, welcome in, wrong side of the pond. He is DJ Schweitzer. I am Jamie Lance. And the sky is falling, and we're all going to die.
Yes. Well, I think it's worth stating that this is our first ever emergency podcast. We've been doing this, for 5 years almost now?
We've had no emergencies since we've started.
This is a legitimate emergency, though.
To say the least. We are recording. It is 12 going on 12:30. The U.S. is officially out of bombed out of qualifications. They will not be in the 2018 World Cup in Mother Russia. We're both drinking dark liquor.
Yeah. If it's gonna be telling at all, I don't drink bourbon, and yet tonight I'm drinking bourbon.
Yeah, what you going with?
I only have one bourbon in the house. It's Woodford Reserve. So
okay, I got some Bullet here. So
yeah, your glass looks fancier than mine.
It is. It's a I forget what they're called.
A gimlet.
It's not called a gimlet. I'm pretty sure it's not called a gimlet.
No, I'm sorry.
But we're drinking America's finest as we lament America's worst.
I don't even really know where to start with this.
Yep. Do you want to just start with the match? I guess because the match almost seems in itself so inconsequential now, because we're beyond the match. We're now facing the reality.
Yeah,
everyone was now means.
Yeah, everyone's trying to boil the match down to being like, oh, if we had done this one thing right, or if we'd made this substitution, or if this player had been there, or if you even go outside of our 90 minutes, you look at the Panama match, Blas Perez's very questionable goal that gave Panama the berth into the World Cup, or at least the playoffs. People are looking for things to excuse everything on right now.
Right. You had Honduras
bigger than the 1 point or 3 points we could have gotten tonight.
Yeah, you had Honduras scoring a goal by the ball bouncing off the crossbar and then hitting Ochoa in the back of the head and going in.
Yeah. Sorry, Honduras.
Yeah, you had some fluky goals. You had in the U.S. match with Trinidad and Tobago, you had a wonder strike, and you had just a fluky, poor, looping clearance from Omar Gonzalez that just rainbowed over Tim Howard. So yeah, you can boil those moments down and be like, well, it was just this, and it was so weird, and it was just, the odds. And I mean, yeah, they had I actually just saw Paul Carr from ESPN just had it that their whatever index thing that gives them their metrics had the U.S. with only a 3% chance going into tonight of not qualifying, of being 3%. Knocked out of qualification. 3%.
We crept through with literally every worst case scenario coming to fruition. So the U.S. had it within the possibility to lose tonight's match and still make it through, right? That could have happened.
Right. Because, I mean, up until the point that Panama scored that goal at the end of their match, the U.S. was still tracking for that fourth place spot, which now looks like a dream compared to the reality we are given. And even, had Honduras not taken the lead and Panama not taking the lead, we didn't even have to win.
No.
We didn't even have to tie.
No, we didn't. you know, this, as we're saying, like the result, we had a range of results we could have gotten that would have led us into the tournament, automatic qualification included in them. But this isn't something that boils down to tonight, as we were saying. Like, there were 10 matches in qualification in the Hex, right?
Mm-hmm.
We won 3 of them. That means there were 7 others where we dropped points, where things could have been picked up. And with all due respect to Mexico and Costa Rica, who are both obviously very good teams,
mm-hmm.
Honduras, Panama, Trinidad and Tobago, let's lump in even in Costa Rica in that respect. The amount of resources, the amount of money, the exposure, the stadiums, the facilities, the coaching, the
right. I mean, just look at the lead up to this match. What was the big talk about? The water, the rain, and the moat, because Trinidad and Tobago, they don't even have a legit pitch. The pitch can't even drain properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, I mean, these were the storylines, and you're right. Like, it all of these smaller countries that don't have the resources, don't have the just socioeconomic stability that we have here in the United States, and yet we're the ones in 5th place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird situation right now. I posted earlier, like, we thought we knew what peak soccer Twitter was. Tonight's been a different realm. Everyone's trying to get their hot takes in, and there are some absolutely brilliant, like, amazing one-liners and hot takes and jokes that everyone's putting through. And I'll be honest, like, I'm actually kind of glad to have it, because this sucks. Like, I'm not even, like, fully processing how bad this sucks.
Like, I mean, that's what I tweeted right afterwards. My first tweet was like I it's not even real to me yet that this has actually just happened.
This is like, it's the shock and denial stage right now, right? The 7 stages of grieving. Right now, we're definitely in that early denial area of it, and it's real easy to think about. But, like, the last time the United States weren't in a World Cup, I was 4. Mm-hmm. I don't think you were even alive, were you?
I was. It was what, summer of '86.
Yeah.
I was like 6 months old.
Okay. So you scraped in there.
Just made it under the wire.
Just barely. But, like, I don't have memory of a time when the United States wasn't in a World Cup. I only remember one game from the 1990 World Cup, and that was the final. I don't remember the U.S. playing at all, but I knew they were in it at some point. So to me, there's not really a reality. And for most of the soccer following population in this country, there is no reality of a World Cup without the United States. And you see people that were like, well, what are we supposed to do in June now? Like, to me, the obvious answer is, like,
watch the World Cup.
we're just going to watch the World Cup. Like that, not anything's changing in that respect.
You're just not going to be chewing your nails off during the match this time.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to be as stressed about the tournament as I would have been otherwise. But it's like, there's also this whole segment of people that are out there right now that are almost celebrating this. And
well, because everybody wants the thing that they've been, the drum that they've been pounding, the agenda that they've been hammering and pushing out there. They want to feel vindicated by this.
Yeah.
And listen, I mean, to be honest, there are arguments out there and agendas out there that rightly are probably vindicated tonight. Not all of them, but there are some. I would say there's a lot of. I think what it does is it gives us some real pause to where we go, okay, we were just chugging along, so why would we need to change things? And now we're not chugging anymore. We've come clean off the rails. So now it's like we actually are at a situation where we can go, okay, how much of this do we really need to start to actually reevaluate? Like, we were getting by, but what were some of the key changes that needed to happen? Because now we probably have to do it because might as well.
Well, I mean, I think it's undisputed. Like, you know, one thing is there's a whole generation of players that were like kissing goodbye in a breath tonight. It's not just. I tweeted a little bit about
that
this.
That actually hasn't even dawned on me yet. Like that. I mean, think about it. The next time we are in the World Cup, Christian Pulisic will basically be like Josie Altidor's age.
He'll be what, 24 at that time, 23,
24, so maybe a little younger, but still, like, he won't be
early.
There will be a lot of guys that, I mean, the Christian Pulisic of next cycle is in high school right now. Of the next cycle, it's going to matter for us, is in high school right now.
Well,
and the guys that we've been watching for the past couple, they're done. I mean, how many of those guys? Wow, yeah. Because I mean, think about it. Outside of the young guys that were just kind of starting to break through, like, who of that group are going to be around? Maybe Guzan. Howard's obviously not. Dempsey's gone. Bradley's probably gone.
Yeah, Bradley. I looked up a few of the key guys on the team, and Michael Bradley will be 35. A Darlington Nagbe, who seems like a spring chicken, is actually he'll be 32 by the time the next World Cup rolls around, or almost 32.
Right. This could have been his only chance.
Yeah, Josie Altidore, I think, was 30. Bobby Wood and John Brooks, two players that everyone's really high on right now, right, within the national team ranks. They'll be 28. Like, that'll be their last World Cup. Even looking at a guy like Pulisic, right, that's this shining star in our sea of emptiness right now, right? Like, this tournament is absolutely crucial for him, or would have been for him from a development standpoint. It puts him in a real pressure cooker in a way that he's never felt before. Yeah, the Bundesliga, starts, and Champions League, those are all really big things, but carrying the weight of your nation on your back into literally the world's largest stage, there's nothing that can compare to that. And for guys like Landon Donovan and DeMarcus Beasley, and even a young Tim Howard, he wasn't necessarily the one in the goal then, but he was on the bench. Thinking back to the 2002 World Cup, those guys picked up the nation and dragged them towards the soccer future that we're sitting in today.
Right.
And
luckily, Beasley will still get one more chance.
Yeah. There's probably one more left in there for him. Stay strong, guy. But it's one of those things that we're not only kissing goodbye the last of the golden generation of U.S. soccer, and people will laugh at that idea, but this was a golden generation of American soccer players. And, it started with Landon Donovan, obviously, who left a few years earlier than he wanted to, but Beasley, Jeff Cameron, Clint Dempsey, Tim Howard. These are a generation of players that have taken the U.S. to heights we've been to before, but on a scale that had never really been achieved before, and came back and redefined the domestic league here. I don't know that anyone would have wanted this type of ending for them, but that's what they're getting. But then there's that whole in-between generation. There's between Pulisic and these guys, and a Michael Bradley, a guy who's young as far as things go right now, at 35 almost by the time the next tournament rolls around. That's too old. Like, that's Pirlo was a rare example of a guy who dominated midfield at 35 in a World Cup. And we're talking about Pirlo, right? Like, no offense to Michael Bradley, but he's a level below that. So we're kissing goodbye to legitimately like 5 to 6 of some of our best ever modern era players. You can make arguments about guys before this point that should be in here or not, but 5 players that were some of our best ever, like would definitely be in our best 11.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone. They're done from a World Cup perspective. We can't look and lean on them anymore. That's a generation worth of soccer players that we're just waving by to, and one foul swoop if things need to be burned down the way that everyone's saying they need to be burned down. And that's a really daunting prospect.
Can we play a game?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna play Vindicated or Not Vindicated.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Vindicated or Not Vindicated? The "we shouldn't have fired Jurgen" crowd.
Bruce did end up posting a worse record against arguably an easier schedule. I would say at least partially vindicated.
Okay. How about and this is sort of the same crowd, but slightly different talking points. The Bruce Arena sucks crowd.
Oh, like, totally.
Why did we hire this guy crowd?
Yeah, they're rolling in like a pig and slop right now, just lathering up in it.
How about the MLS is the devil crowd?
You could argue that one 2 ways, right? There's obviously like the men's national team has been worse since MLS started, and you could make arguments for that, and you could definitely argue against it too. There's also the argument that MLS has like made other national teams better.
Yeah, I pointed that out tonight.
And I don't think that's wrong either. Like there's a what's the saying? A rising tide raises all ships. Whether or not we've benefited a lot from the rising tide is a worthy argument at this point. But it's undoubtedly
everyone else rose. We dry docked.
Yeah, we might have it, and it might be because we are the one that was building all the ships. At least our domestic league was. Yeah, you could make a little bit of a vindication point, but I don't know how much water it actually holds.
Tonight alone, 4 of the goal scorers across the hex were MLS players.
Can't really argue with that.
Sadly, none of them were Josie Altidore or Benny Feilhaber or Michael Bradley.
Killing Acosta, yeah.
How about the pay to play is ruining soccer crowd?
I don't know realistically how that's impacting right now, right? Like nothing that could have been changed since Jurgen was let go or within the last 4 years would have had any tangible impact on that. Changing pay to play 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, yeah, we'll hear that out. That's an argument that I think it's an issue and a problem within our country as far as soccer goes.
Yeah.
But it's not one that just you snap your fingers and it's a changing of a national team coach,
right?
Or a director of development, or even the national federation president. None of those things are going to change that overnight. That's a long-term generational shift that doesn't.
If you make that change today, you're mostly affecting like literally kids from the age of like 6 to like 12.
Right.
Is really affecting if you finally move away from that model.
Yeah, and
we'll see those kids. It's going to be a while, obviously, to let them come through the tracks here at the top.
It's a long pipeline.
How about here it is. And they were honking their horns. The Pro Rel crowd, vindicated or not vindicated?
This does it have an impact? You see the people that were making arguments throughout the course of the end of that match that were saying like none of these players are used to playing in matches that matter because there's nothing challenging the people at the bottom. And they're not wrong in that respect, right? Like the teams at the bottom of MLS aren't getting pushed in the same way as teams that would get relegated in Europe or elsewhere would. That's not to say that these players haven't played under pressure. There's the Gold Cup, obviously internationally. The Copa America tournaments that we participated on multiple occasions. MLS playoffs, those are fairly high pressure, and a lot of the guys who are MLS players within the mix and during this World Cup cycle are people who played in the playoffs and won championships. Mm-hmm. Those are high pressure packed situations, a different type of pressure, obviously, as opposed to like digging yourself out of a hole like we found ourselves in tonight. But pressure comes in a lot of different forms and fashions. So I don't know that you can make the argument that promotion and relegation made any sort of impact on tonight outside of like maybe a tangential benefit. Nah, not vindicated.
And then finally, U.S. soccer is basically like mini Illuminati inside of American soccer, and they're just controlling everything. It's just all about the money for them. Vindicated, not vindicated. Get your triangles up.
Yeah. I thought I was doing the all-seeing eye.
Yeah, you put your eye on it? You like that?
Yeah, it is. I think look, there's no doubt that some of the hierarchy needs to look long and hard at what's going on in this situation. Change needs to happen in some capacity. I think right now saying this exactly is what needs to happen is probably a little premature. Mm-hmm. But I do think that we're going to see challengers for the first time in a long time to the establishment. There have been people who have already declared that they're going to run against Sunil Gulati in the upcoming U.S. soccer presidential elections. And mm-hmm.
Handful of dudes we've never heard of, and then Eric Winalda.
Yeah. I think at bare minimum we're going to see a lot of change come out of this. What that is and who's feeling vindicated about it, it's too early to say. I think right now everyone in the aftermath is just licking their wounds.
If you're Sunil Gulati, A, do you even run for re-election? And B, what's your campaign looking like? Like what are you touting as like, hey, look at me, keep me around?
I think there's growth, right? The sport on the whole has grown, at least in the professional ranks, in a way that it never has before here. Recognition, dollars generated. From a business perspective, obviously, U.S. soccer is doing pretty good. I would be reticent to say I know what Gulati is going to do. He's kind of a secretive dude in the way that he approaches some things.
Did you see that photo that someone snapped of him in the press conference tonight? Of him he looked like he had just been hit with a tranquilizer dart.
Yeah, you got a dart in your neck. Yeah, it was a picture cut of a guy that was definitely feeling the emotions of the moment. Does Gulati need to run again? Should he run again? I don't know. I don't think, he's obviously reaching higher echelons of the soccer hierarchy in the world. He's sitting on the FIFA boards at this point. I don't know that he has to be involved with U.S. soccer in order for that to continue. Maybe he sees his path to having a wider impact on the game at those levels. But changes are coming in some capacity, and we're going to see a really interesting timeline unfold over the next 6 months to a year.
All right. So obviously everyone's saying, and it makes sense. I think it's obviously natural in any country, any national team, when objectives are not met, when failure is upon you, you got to make a change in the manager's seat. So yeah. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Bruce Arena is not going to be around much longer. Right. Probably could be out by the time he could be out by the time this podcast is out. Or he, yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah, there's a lot of questions about what on earth the U.S. even plans to do between now and, like, you know, when the next cycle starts up. Because it's like, you know, generally you would schedule some friendlies in early spring, you know, in that spring international break there, and then have your little tune-up. But obviously there is no tune-up. Well, we might be the team that's helping someone else tune up. So I don't really know what you would do, or if would even be a rush to make a selection. But who would that even be? I mean, at this point, who would it even be?
We've talked a bit about this in the past, right? Like when Jurgen was let go and where we thought things should go. I think that the mindset is, right, it needs to be someone younger who's got some fresher ideas. The name that I saw thrown about the most tonight, and I think holds a lot of water as far as an argument goes, is Tab Ramos, the former national team player, current youth national team coach.
Obviously, he'll have a familiarity with a lot of the guys that'll be coming through here in the next cycle or so.
Right, and I think there's value in that, right? That you already know who some of the bigger names are that you should be paying attention to, and maybe highlight who's coming through. I think the other side of this too is, before I name off a couple other names that are highly speculative at best, the whole idea of a technical director versus a national team coach, I don't know if that's been ironed out yet, right? Like
who's doing that? Because Jurgen was doing both, but how do
right now that there wasn't a goal of development, right? It was get in and then we'll deal with the rest of it.
So was that like a vacant spot essentially?
Maybe that hasn't been answered, and I think that's something that needs to be. But I think what we learned is that we need to have two people doing that. You can't have one. They need to work very closely together, but you need to break that role into two so that people can adequately break down things the way they need to. But some other names that I think are probably high atop the list of wants or potentially interest, or you know, who knows where everyone falls on that spectrum. But Peter Vermes at Sporting KC, I think, is someone, if you're looking for a bridge between the old school and the new school, he's probably an easy jump. If you're looking to make something a little bit more dramatic, a Caleb Porter from Portland Timbers, he seems an easy pick. And he's probably more of a fan favorite one, given his success with Akron, and now he's won a championship at the MLS level, and is well liked and knows a lot of the guys who are coming through the pool as well.
Give me Berhalter.
Greg Berhalter is definitely on that one. That was legitimately the next name I was going to throw out there. The name's escaping me all of a sudden in Dallas. It's going to drive me bonkers.
Oh, I'll look it up here.
Wonder if I can edit the sound out of this actual video broadcast.
Probably not.
Probably not. And if so, if we ever use this, enjoy this little outtake, listeners and watchers.
Oh, Pareja.
Yeah.
Pareja.
Pareja, Dallas, I think would be a great pick. Very aware of a hotbed that exists in the Dallas and Central Texas and Central Plains area for youth players and players coming both across the border, and that we would have access to, that would have, you know, family ties across the border as well. Those are the names I think that spring to mind, all young, kind of former, if not national team players, you know, former players that understand how the U.S. system works and ticks a little bit. And you know, I think that's where you go, but I think the larger questions exist. You know, the manager one's obviously a big one, but
Mhm.
That person is not going to have a real impact for another 3 years, right? But the next time World Cup qualifying kicks back up, I guess that's 2 years from now. But um, the development side is where everything lives right now, and I think the bigger issue is like, do we have enough coming in the pipeline to meet expectations? And if we don't, what can we do from a base level to make sure that we have more and a consistent feed of good players through the pipeline? You look at countries like Uruguay, um, Holland, although they've obviously missed out on the World Cup and the last Euros, um, Denmark, Belgium, countries that have like 8 million people max,
Mhm.
um, maybe 12 to 15. They consistently produce world-class players. What are they doing that's so different from us outside of geography?
Right.
Those are the questions I think that need to be asked. Um,
By the way,
at a,
I'll run this down for you here real quick. So obviously, as of now, Bruce Arena is your senior team head coach. U23s is led by Andy Herzog. U20s, Tab Ramos. U19s, Brad Friedel.
hmm,
And then it kind of goes on from there. And then technical director, it just says vacant.
yeah.
Youth technical director is Tab Ramos. Brian Johnson is the technical advisor. Carson Porter is the other one. Yeah, I mean, and then not exactly household names for the rest of the backroom staff there, as far as scouting and directors of coaching education and stuff like that.
Mm. Look, it's I think the answers have to come from within to a certain extent. There will be some who will push for managers from all over the world to come in, someone with crazy pedigree and blah blah blah. I kind of think we need to stay from within right now. Like, this is a problem we created for ourselves, and you kind of need someone who's experienced the ups and downs of it to be able to navigate the waters appropriately. And while I don't think an outside influence would be bad, maybe as a consultant, but not as the one who's running the show. So that'll definitely be one of the very big curiosities that'll need to be answered here in the coming months.
I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to do as Americans? Like, though, like, just go out and get the best. Like, just go out and get the best to come fix this problem for us.
That is normally what we do. These are very unique American problems, though, in the same way that we've talked about how we don't think promotion and relegation would work here very well at the time being. It's because we have very unique circumstances that are very different from other countries and cultures. That's no different from the way that we develop players and that we push people into the national team. A lot of those same factors that impact us at the lower levels are the same at the higher levels, and we've not figured out a way to make a big splash in that respect. You know what's funny is I was thinking earlier about like countries that have similar resources to us, and I'm just talking about like wealth at certain times, but also like space and the ability to produce enough money to be able to fund things from a government standpoint. The Soviet Union / Russia is like the immediate thing that springs to mind. It's the most comparable country to us in the world as far as like our dominance within a region. China,
Right.
you can even lump in here as well. But if you look at the three of us, none of us have done anything on a real global scale in the men's soccer game.
Right.
Does our geography make us naturally inclined because we're all so damn big? Does it make it harder to do that here? Those are things that I'm starting to think a little bit about. Like, is that part of what makes it so hard to produce players in a way that other countries do? Brazil obviously throws a wrench into that whole conversation. But there's obviously a little bit of confinement of where people actually live in that country too. But that said, there's so many layers to this thing that's going on right now that in the hours that have transpired since this devastating loss, I have no clue where to take it.
How much change do you expect to happen here in the next 18 months? Like, do you expect some real discussions to be had? Do you expect some hires to be made that will make people go, oh wow, they're going for something different here? Or oh wow, they're gonna try to do something right.
We can't rule it out. Anything's possible now. Like, had we squeaked our way in, I think the status quo would have gone on. Now, anything's on the table. Shoot, I think a lot of things are going to come into question in the next few months that could potentially substantially impact soccer for a long time to come in this country, both positively and negatively. So we'll find out.
What was your favorite hot take on the internet tonight?
Ooh, man, there were some good ones.
I mean, they were coming at you fast and furious.
Yeah, they really were. I definitely think near the top has to be like all the people that were coming out of the woodwork to be like, this is why soccer is dumb. Like, I saw a lot of that. Like, and I think it was more like people who aren't soccer people, that aren't in the crowd or aren't in the conversation at all. They came out tonight in force in a way that I've not seen in a long time. I don't know. I made the joke that Christian Pulisic would be the worst or the best player not playing in the World Cup next year, and everyone like immediately jumped down my throat, like, oh, what about Gareth Bale and Alexis Sanchez and yeah. I get it. I get it. I'm being facetious in this hot take. Clearly, Pulisic wouldn't be, but he would be in probably the 11 of players that would be left out, at least at this point. So. I don't know. Have you seen a favorite that's been at the top of your list?
Oh man, I mean, there's some like U.S. representative from Pennsylvania that kind of did what you were talking about, like went the whole like, oh, I was all bummed out until I remembered I don't care about soccer, and then like people like were like tweeting, I'm like, what about Christian Pulisic that's like basically from your area? And he was like, oh, yeah, no, he's cool. It's like, yeah, you've blown this.
Yeah. You've already failed at this. PR move, failure, for sure.
I mean, there was just a lot of – well, then there was just the whole fight of, like, people going I guess it was just – there's a battle of semantics where people were like – I mean, obviously the headline is – that this is a shock defeat and a shock circumstance, like that the fact that the U.S. didn't qualify and that they crashed out, this is shocking. And by every metric, that's true. I mean, I talked about the whole ESPN, soccer power index or whatever it's called, gave us a 3% chance for this outcome to happen. So by definition, it's surprising, unexpected, and shocking. But then there was like all these people going like, oh, I'm not surprised. I knew we were getting ready to just, fall into the soccer abyss because we've been sucking for years. So back to vindicated, not vindicated. The U.S. soccer has never been good. Crowd, vindicated or not vindicated?
Oh, yeah, they're another group that are rolling in the muck right now. Look at maybe there's some truth in that a lot of us have been a little unwilling to admit, like,
and we've skated by, we've got by, we've qualified by hook or by crook.
We've gotten out of our group. We've made it to quarterfinals. We almost advanced all the way to the semifinal. If not for a handball on the line that wasn't called.
Right. I think it goes back to a very basic conversation that a lot of people have been having is, the difference between, Pulisic and, a Dempsey or a, name your guy from the past 20 years from the national team, like where your Dempseys and all these guys, yeah, they are talented, they have skill, but it was about their just kind of their work and determination, their grit. U.S. men's national team has been defined by grit for decades. Like, right. Oh, we're a real gritty, hard nose. We'll grind it out and get that result. We play with so much heart. That's what you hear from other fan bases. I remember after the 2014 World Cup, listening to I think it was the football ramble where they basically were like, giving props like, hey, first of all, England sucked, and the U.S. like give them credit, like their performance like had so much like guts into it and like so much heart, and but that's who we've been. And what we need to do if we actually want to hit that next level is to transition from those guys that are the grinded out, never say die, good but not great players to the Christian Pulisic elite talent and skill and soccer IQ that you see, countries like Spain and Belgium and all these places have in spades. We have one guy.
Put all the hope on that one.
That's what Argentina did tonight.
That's right, and it worked for them. There are so many unanswered questions right now. I think we're at a point where we don't even know what questions entirely to ask. I think obviously that the time is now to ask those questions, and perhaps chart a new course. What that course looks like, how similar it is to the system that we have now, and systems that we have now that all interlink with everything, I think is a long way away from being determined. But if you've ever wanted to see change in the sport here, this is your time to get in on the action, because there's definitely going to be a window of opportunity.
Well, it's 1 a.m.
Should probably call it.
The winners and wankers. Winners, Panama.
Honduras as well. Congrats to them for pulling it out. Wanker Mexico for not doing us a solid back. They owed us one. Did they forget about Senzusi?
Yeah. Who is going to be there? Like, what would we have done? We would just pronounce it like in a very American way, like Saint Vila.
Saint Vila.
Saint Carlos Vila.
Yeah. That would be Charles. Saint Charles.
Saint Charles Vila.
Saint Charles. Yeah, definitely a wanker. U.S. men's national team, to a certain extent, you feel bad saying that because those guys are bearing the brunt of this right now. I'd hate to be in their shoes. They obviously didn't want to lose. They bear some responsibility, but man, I do not envy them in the slightest this evening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Twillman who said it on SportsCenter tonight, which he's been going on some rants that have been pretty tasty. But he basically pointed out, like, this match will haunt every single member of this national team for the rest of their lives.
Yep.
I mean, Omar Gonzalez especially. I mean, knowing that he literally stat-wise contributed to this loss.
Don't take it too hard, Omar. It happens to the best of us when we've been back there trying to block all those balls for all these years.
Yeah. All righty.
Right. Well, bottoms up. Cheers. And well, you thought you got a break from us this week. We came at you, but we'll be back again on the regular next week. Don't forget, if you have questions, comments, things you want us to chat about, want to know what drink we should be drinking next, whatever the case may be, hit us up, contact@wrongsideofthepond.com. Jeremy's at Jeremy Lance. I'm at Wrong Side of Pond on Twitter. Until next time, hopefully we qualify before another World Cup or something like that.
There's always Gold Cup.
Yeah, the Gold
Gold
Cup.
Cup 2019 headed our way.
Watch out.
All righty.
Yeah.